In this video, we're going to be talking just very briefly about the feedback that you have for us on the course. We're going to be having a look at what our priorities are, and we're going to be digging deep into the art direction concept document so you guys can put some specifics around your art direction. I want to start by talking about the fact that we're constantly getting fantastic feedback from you guys about the course. Here's a thread. What are you looking for to get from the course? Which is on community.gamedev.tv. And there's some great conversation in there, and each time we do a live stream or we get feedback on our forum, what we can see consistently is people saying that they are solo, that you guys are mostly solo developers, maybe one or two people on the team, and that you want to see everything of the process. You're very interested in the coding aspect and a little bit of the design, a little bit of production, a little bit of project management, a little bit of audio. Some people have got more of the little bits, other people have less of it. But in general, you guys want to see what Ben and I are doing, and that's cool because that's how we've constructed our project. And so when I look at what am I doing at the moment, what's Ben doing at the moment, we're constantly doing 2 or 3 or 4 things each. So you might say to yourself, let me pull up my whiteboard here. Actually, you wouldn't say to yourself, let me pull up my whiteboard. You'd say to yourself, what's Rick talking about? And Rick says, let me pull up my whiteboard. Does that make sense? You guys following me? At the moment, what we've got is, for our core moment that we're working towards, we've talked about this a bunch, we need to have combat, where basically you have your player, and he's got a sword, and he's bonking enemies. There's an enemy, raw, bonking them on the head. And for that, we need to have a whole bunch of very specific coding that we've talked about a lot, and Ben's currently doing a lot of that at the moment. So Ben's working on this. And we're also working with putting together a level flow. So a level flow. And why do we need a level flow? Well, we need a level flow so that we can put this combat moment in context. If all we have is one little room where you run up and hit an enemy on the head, we can't really say, is that indicative of how our game is going to look and feel? Because our game is an RPG. It's about going through a quest and leveling up and getting experience. So we need some sort of level to do that. But to make a level, well, what sort of level should we make? Should it be a dungeon? Should it be a forest? Should it be a spaceship? Should it be a planet? So to do that, we need to know the direction of our game. That's not a D, that looks like a P. Direction of our game. And specifically, what do we need? We need our art direction. Now, the art direction doesn't mean that we have to go and make a whole bunch of assets. But what we do need to have is, what's our game generally going to look and feel like? And so where we find ourselves right at the moment for our core project is, because we've got 2 guys, we've got 3 guys actually. You have guys haven't met Mike, but he's working on art type stuff over here. He's working on a bunch of art, good old Mike. And Rick's over here working on level and a bunch of other cool things, super cool things that Rick's working on. So at the moment, there's 3 of us, but if it's just you, and I know for 95% of you from what you've told us, it's that you're solo. So what do? Do you do all of this for months and months and months, and then you do all of this, and then you do all of this? Well, I think what's best is that you follow what we're doing and just pretend that you're 3 people. You're mostly going to have the 2 hats, the design and coding hats, but also we're introducing a bit of an art hat at the moment. And I'm going to expose that to you guys. I think even if you're not interested in creating art assets, you should be right in the driver's seat of saying what's our direction. And I'm going to show you that. I'm not a classically trained artist myself, but I've done a lot of art direction. So even if you cannot draw, you can absolutely be an art director. So you guys ready? Ready to be an art director? This is going to be fantastic. I'm going to go over here just first of all to show you where we're at with the overall flow of things. We've got tech stack under control. We put a little tick box there. Player experience, we talked about that very recently. Product remarkability, we've talked about that very recently. You might not have narrowed it down and finalized it yet, but we're on track. And art direction is an important thing that we need to do to complete our game vision. And then it's really just high-level story. You've done a little bit of that in terms of the theme last couple of videos, but art direction is the big outstanding part. So this is the actual art direction concept document we've been using on our team. I'll just quickly scroll through for you so you can see there's a bunch of pictures. It's not just going to be me talking and a whole bunch of words. There's comments throughout. You can see that, who is this Ben guy? Nice idea. Whoever wrote this document couldn't possibly be Rick. Oh, goodness me. See what I have to put up with you guys? He's such a clown, that Ben. Anyway, so we created this before we went ahead and created a full-on art design document. So you might have heard teams have a big full-on art document that says this is exactly how you need to create the art style. For now, this is what's the feel of our game. And being a designer, of course, I've gone and put a whole bunch of text at the start of an art document. And the point here was to communicate to the other guys on the team my feeling and philosophy of this is the direction. And I wanted to state and stress the characters are the star of the show, that characters behave in odd ways. The environment should be more of a backdrop. Our game is not all about, wow, look at our beautiful environment. Our game is about, look at that odd crap that's happening. What the heck's going on here? That's strange and odd. So I want our artists to be very cognizant of that. They don't need to put a ton of effort into making things look beautiful. They need to make a ton of effort into making a stage that characters can be crazy on. And the summary that I like is oppressed medieval with a hint of hope. The part oppressed, I mean, it's run down, it's kind of dirty, things are broken. I didn't want it to be pristine. There's a lot of games out there where everything looks like someone's just, recently given it a good polish and a good clean and everything's lovely and nice. This is dirty, run down in the mud world that I want to create. I've got some points in here that the guys have been talking about. Rundown houses should be really run down. Knights cannot afford horses, so they use coconuts to make horse sounds, directly out of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which I love a lot. And then here's where I get into the nuts and bolts. And my advice for you, go online, jump on Google Images, type in something that generally represents what you're going for and just surf around. Go to games that you like and you've played and go grab images for them. It doesn't have to be game related, just start searching and see where you go with it. We started with this idea of isometric and current games which are isometric, and then I've made some modifications. I'll just zoom in here so you can see my lovely Photoshop work. You guys don't have to be Photoshop wizards like this is here, but this started off as a pretty normal kind of game scene, and as you can see, there's a whole bunch of pigs that now live in the fountain. That was my handiwork, putting the pigs in there just to say, you know what, this is a pretty cool scene. I like the camera angles. I like that these are dirty kind of, the material here looks a bit run down. It doesn't look pristine. Same with this. It's kind of looking, there's moss and grime and stuff. I like that a lot. But still with a greenness to it. I don't want the place to be dead, to be run, to be lifeless. I don't want it to feel like, the devil has arrived. I want it to feel like just, good old-fashioned medieval Great Britain where, everything's green, but everything's a bit grotty, just like the people from Great Britain. Okay, so that's what I've got in here, and I've just made a note. If you're solo, it's still good to make a note because that forces you to make decisions. Don't do it all in your head. Write it down a little bit, even if no one's going to read it. And I've got in here, I like the level of detail, the camera, the lighting, but with more of a lived-in experience, and hence why I put the pigs in there. With these sorts of character outfits, colors, sigils, armor, so I really like the simple colors and a little bit of the goofy. You can see the Monty Python one here, a little bit of the goofy helmets and stuff. Each character is very normal with one point of exaggeration. For example, like their helmet is a bit, big and odd, or they've got droopy chainmail. And I like the color, and I like the horns on the wizard guy, and obviously this is just a general run-of-the-mill French guy. What's he say? Your mother smells like hamsters, or something along those lines. Monty Python. Also set in these locations, I like the castles and the bridge and the water and trees and outdoors. So it's that kind of, are you guys getting a feel for what I'm going for here? It's that kind of era, that sort of genre of game, of art style. With these kind of punchy particle effects, I think our game needs to have some bling to it. And the bling I would like to come through particle effects and special effects and lighting. And then here's some color tones that I really liked. I like this. I've coined it the 1970s like Instagram filter. I like that dull kind of faded bit. But still with some color in there. Pastel, mate. No, not pastel. This is why you get images, because I don't know what words to use to describe that. I'm like, hey, like this image. And then more detailed explanation. What I've done in this document, I've gone and explained more about what I like about particular elements. I like, what I like about this scene. I like that there's a certain, camera angle. This is from Torchlight 2. I like the way the grass pops up in front of the character, the twisted trees, and the special effects and the lighting I've talked about. I also wanted to make a point that, this is an example of a castle where the turret's been exploded and there's a guy standing on top. Maybe he's Patsy the servant. He's got his umbrella. He's saying, "What do you want?" And you're saying, "Let me in." He's saying, "No, you cannot come in," or something to that effect, probably with a better accent than that one. But I do like this kind of small, petite type castle. I think it's interesting. And obviously, classical characters, and this from the guys before. This guy's ridiculous headpiece. That's the absurd that I want to go for. He looks like David Duchovny, doesn't he? Anyway, random thought. So I like that everything's pretty normalish, but you see he's got a chicken on his shield. So they've got one or two things that stand out. Like the gigantic Knights of Ni guy here. That's why when I talk about Monty Python, that's a lot of the stuff there. We just found this image we thought was cool because it's random and it's quirky, so I just shoved it in there. This is hey, this could be neat as the sort of metagame overview. If you have a metagame, that bad perspective, hand-drawn kind of thing, I think is cool. And then this look, the color, as well as here are some of the colors I like. There's a vibrancy to the reds, but also a fadedness to it. So that's the entirety of our art concept document. It's not an art Bible. It's not an art design document. It's basically saying this is what feels good with some structure. I haven't just gone and dumped 1,000 images in there. I've actually said this is what I like about the particular images, because no image is going to say this is our entire game. It's going to be a little piece that you pull out of it and you cobble together those pieces and it makes a game that reflects what you are feeling. So the challenge I have for you is to download the art concept document template that I've created for you and grab reference images and add them to your document and fill out your document so it feels like your game. You can just copy what we're doing, that's absolutely fine, but I'd love for you to, at the very least, go through the motions of giving it your flavor, giving it your vision, and practicing being the person who's holding the vision for the game. And then I would like you to share your document with at least one person. You can share your document on the discussions for this particular lecture. That would be fantastic. But to make sure, if it's not in the discussion section, because I know not all of you guys are uploading it there, that's fine, is to make sure at least one person understands what your design of your art is, your art direction is. Wonderful, and as always, if you have any questions, please let us know. Please write those questions to us. We'll be happy to answer them for you. And once you've completed your art concept document, we will see you in the next lecture.